Logan Pierce.
And to start, we're going to talk about our introduction. So, for the past 12 years in America, there have been many firsts for our nations. In 2008, we had our first African American president elected into office, which we'll later talk about that. And then he served 2 terms, and that'll reflect our political data later on as well. Throughout history, the U.S. has gone back and forth between red and blue, Republicans and Democrats. And there's been a really big divide over the past few years. So we were observing technology and how that affects the political data and the events that are happening around the world and how that affects everybody in their, I guess you could say, voting tactics and who they decide they want to vote for and their views.
This is also important just because all of these factors also have effects on businesses as well. You also can see this back in 2008 to 2012. Gas prices rose up to $3-4, in some places $5. This was in a direct correlation to oil makers overseas pulling thousands of barrels off of the market. This had a direct effect on businesses, as you can imagine. For instance, shipping companies, they would have to go and look at their numbers and see exactly what they could do to counteract the costs that are coming in for this. But nonetheless, I'll hand it back to Treasure.
Therefore, that comes a lot with the political ideas. Therefore, people assume, and we're just going to say assume for the moment, that people who vote for the Democratic Party lean more towards, higher taxes, and the Republicans are against that. So that's why people decided later on that they wanted to vote Obama out of office on top of other things. So that also proves our data as to why we think political events and events in the world just affect our data as well as technology. So we then can later predict what the country is going to be voting for later on. Now Logan's going to talk about motivation.
All right, so this is a pretty interesting project just because it deals with a lot of different issues that kind of come together and affect multiple points of life and also business. And just to start off, this should be a fairly interesting read for most people, just because you'd hope the general public would be interested in politics and how it affects their lives, and also how different aspects of the world affect politics. But also it's a big interest for business people, federal officials, and generally your average Joe, just because it helps detail why things may be affecting you in ways that it is. And in business, it can show why things are costing more or less, why it's hard to get workers in, or how to keep them happy. Current events in the world and how they affect politics are an extremely long-reaching phenomenon. Nonetheless, technology also has an extreme impact on the world. Ever since the invention and publication of the internet, we have seen widespread advancements in everything from technology to just general education. So many things have changed. It is crazy. But nonetheless, just to give you a little bit more insight into some of the research that we've done, technology can have an insane impact just because, for instance, when coronavirus hit, it was our saving grace, really. It allowed us to stay in contact with our coworkers, our friends, our family. The internet was the only reason why the majority of the projects around the world have been able to continue. And some companies have also been able to cut costs because of this. And that's also something that you should be able to look at and correlate with the events that are going on in the world. Well, after that, I'll go ahead and pass off to Treasure.
So because of these political events that are currently going on, we look into the past, and we had swine flu effect, had a lot of issues in Obama's term. And so a lot of people were looking very closely and see how they really wanted to see how he handled that. So that's another reason why political and current events go along. So depending, like now, currently with our current president, people aren't satisfied with how he's handling it. So we could also probably predict that we may not have, you know, that particular president in office again, or we might. Um, with technology evolving as well, we are now able to become more educated. And this also affects how people vote because with more education, people can really think about and see how they really feel and not be influenced by hearsay, so on and so forth. Starting off by talking about the hearsay and the technology, there's also the concern for hackers with technology evolving. So that's another thing that people are going to be looking for when voting. And these evolving technologies and evolving systems can ensure that there is less voter fraud and less people trying to vote twice, so on and so forth as well. So with that technology, it could be good and bad in both ways. We're also going to be saving time. We're going to be saving money, so we don't have to recount all these votes with new technology. But we also would have to implement new systems as well if there is the potential for voter fraud. And now I'm going to pass it back over to Logan.
All right, for implementing technology, just to start off, things like Tableau, JMP, Excel, all of these different analyzing tools that we've come into contact with are incredibly efficient in helping look into the future or look into the trends of the past. And these are things that are extremely important. People have said if you do not understand history, it is bound to repeat itself, and I think that stands true. With the internet and all of the different tools that we've been able to make using technology and everything, we should really be able to implement these to bring change into the business, into just your general life, and you should be able to use that for the better. Nonetheless, just to go off of a little bit of data, we were able to use JMP to be able to show us what states in the 2012 and 2016 election voted red or blue. And we were also able to correlate that with a little bit of events that may be happening and why things may have changed. To start off, of course, just a general political aspect of it. If you have someone who is, for instance, a Democrat like Obama for his 2 terms, if you have a 2-term president, more often than not, the view of the country will shift to the other side. And so it was definitely not surprising to see Trump win in 2016 just because of that general flip that happens every set amount of years in the United States. Additionally, we can pull from the 2016 election where different events may have also brought the election of President Trump. For instance, Trump's running mate, Clinton, for the 2016 election was involved in some pretty scandalous events. For example, the emails that were supposedly on her personal laptop and the different things that she did while her husband was in office that were considered illegal. These are different aspects of both an event and technology having a direct impact on the election for 2016. You could see that the event was that she had these emails and the fraudulent things that she had been accused of doing. But also it was through technology. Without technology, there would have been no way for these things to happen. Nonetheless, these both have incredible long-reaching effects for the political system, no matter where you are, especially in America, though, because we are technically a first world country, and we do revolve around technology for pretty much every aspect of what we deal with. To continue on, I'll talk about our recommendations. After doing the research, we can definitely recommend that the general person, pretty much every person, should be well-versed on political data or even just politics in general. This will lead to a general increase in understanding on what may be going on in your county, your state, your nation. And these are things that can lead you to take charge, bring change for those that come after and also before you. This is also super important to say. I think using technology and programs that we've come up with to analyze data is also extremely important. It makes it so much easier to be able to draw points and come to conclusions to make educated decisions as a business. These are all things that can be incorporated into everyday life and the projects that you do in your work, or even just general accounting for working at home. You can use Excel to expedite processes and things like that, and just make your life a lot easier. Nonetheless, incorporating technology, understanding events, and being well versed in politics is generally just a very good policy to live by.
That wraps up our report. I suggest that, again, that we all should look into data, and I hope y'all enjoyed this. Thank you for listening.